Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for being here. I'm Carla Cottrell. I am the chair of the membership committee here from the New Smyrna Beach Board of Realtors. So I'm going to welcome all of you here. We really need to pick your brains today, and we'll start by going down the line. We'll start with Stephanie, and you guys can introduce yourselves and your companies and talk a little bit about yourselves.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Hall with Shift Insurance Group. I share ownership, and my business partner and I, we opened Shift to be able to build and maintain relationships with our clients. We want to educate them on insurance and make sure that you understand what it means, what it does, and how it works.
Okay.
My name is Jim Smith. I'm the owner-operator of DeSmith Inspections currently, but here in the next couple of weeks I've decided to partner up with Super Inspection Pros, and I'll be joining their team.
Hi, my name is Liz Cruz. I own Brightway Insurance, the cruise agency. And Brightway Insurance, I'm part of a franchise. We have over 300 locations throughout the United States. I work with over 60 different carriers, and I'm appointed with Citizens for commercial and residential as well.
Hello, I'm Sean with Dream Home Inspections. Been in business since 2004, second generation owner. We've been in the industry for a very long time. I performed over 25,000 home inspections, including insurance inspections, and we're here to educate and hopefully answer any questions.
Great. So we want to talk about a couple different areas today, but let's start with this. What happens when you hear there are insurance changes coming in the state of Florida? We've had a couple of things happen this year, a couple little destructive storms and a couple of other things that have happened that have affected the insurance industry greatly. So can you guys update us on what's happening with insurance right now?
It is definitely going through a lot of changes. Changes that the clients need, or insureds need to talk to their agent about. Roofs are a big one, flood is a big one. The demands that carriers are now putting on the insureds regarding their homes and how they maintain them, they're all becoming, I guess, tightened. So we always encourage, call us, we're here for you. We want to be able to talk about that with you. I don't know. What do you think?
As Stephanie said, and then there's, just understanding some of the specific changes that are going on. There's changes in binding arbitration, that being an option on your policy. It can actually be a discount for you. There's changes on the amount of times, the amount of days that the insurers have to respond to claims, to deny or approve. Some of the changes have been from 14 to 7. Some changes have been from 90 to 60. So there are changes in the timelines, not that the insurers need to respond quicker to things as well. And probably I think the one that we talk about a lot at Brightway are the changes with flood, because Citizens has now implemented a timeline of new business and renewal business, and the flood zone you're in and not in a flood zone. By 2027, everyone with a Citizens policy is going to be required to have flood. But the first wave is coming in April. So new business in a flood zone, you are going to be required to have the same amount of flood and contents as your dwelling and contents on your policy.
Wow.
Okay. And again, there's this whole timeline that's going to happen through 27.
For us, it doesn't change a lot of what we do in the reporting, because the report's the report. We use the Citizens 4-point form, and the roof is the age the roof is, and the plumbing is the type that the plumbing is. We do try to keep up with what's going on so that we can tell the client, okay, this roof is 15 years old, it's got maybe 3 to 5 years left. This may be an issue for you when you give this 4-point to your insurance company. It's not going to change how I fill out the report or do my inspection, but I try to keep up with it so I can let the client know how this is going to affect them getting the insurance.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very true on that aspect. There's a lot of different changes that ended up happening. Ron DeSantis has just implemented a new kind of law that got in place. So roofs are going to allow to be 5 years remaining life, and the insurance companies are required for them to accept it. Now the issue is that they're changing it as what a professional is. The way he worded it in the statement is, what is a professional? Now some insurance companies are starting to deny home inspectors. They're requiring structural engineers, they're requiring licensed roofer, ICCA certifications, or which is the international code compliance, and they're requiring a general contractor to start performing these inspections. And the inspections are going to go astronomically through the roof. We are working right now with FABI, which is a Florida Association of Building Inspectors, and we are trying to come up with an advanced certification roof cert to allow home inspectors to do that, so hopefully the prices aren't, because if an engineer gets in place, I mean, $500 an hour is what they charge, and that can be very expensive after an engineer report on it.
Yeah. And then there's some companies, I have one that they make you use their roof inspector, and the cost is, you know, it's $300 or it's whatever. So some even are not even allowing you to choose your own inspector.
And I feel that's almost biased in that aspect too. It's like,
Yeah, I can see where that potentially could have an impact.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, conflict of interest. But so let's back up for just a minute and talk about flood insurance. So one of the things that we heard a lot after Ian and Nicole was people who were getting denied FEMA claims because they didn't have flood insurance. So can you tell us how? And I guess they were supposed to have flood insurance, but they didn't have flood insurance, and so FEMA was denying them. Can you talk about that at all? What was that about?
It might have been because maybe they didn't have a mortgage and they weren't, they didn't purchase the flood insurance, because typically the mortgage is going to require it if you're in a flood zone,
Right.
a special flood zone. So if they weren't compliant with, I guess, the zone that they were in, then that might have been a cause for a denial.
So as a realtor, I always say to people, you live in Florida, there water rises in a lot of different circumstances. Water rises. Get the flood insurance. That, even if you're not in a flood zone, that's always my advice. Take the flood policy.
Well, I'll stop you there, because the whole state of Florida is a flood zone.
Right.
Everybody's in a flood zone. It's just broken down into what level of flood zone you're in.
Right.
And so the special flood zones, you know, there's the preferred zone and then there's the special. The preferred zones are when you buy a home with a mortgage on it, they're not requiring you to have flood insurance. It's not because you're not in a flood zone, it's because you're in a preferred. So you might be in an X.
Right.
Whereas when you're in an AE zone, the mortgage is going to require it because you're more likely to flood. But just to reiterate that again, everybody in the state of Florida is in a flood zone.
So get the flood insurance.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the different types of inspections and which are required by insurance and that sort of thing. We touched on a couple, but I'm not sure everybody got that.
Sure.
So first of all, let's talk about what the 4-point is.
Okay. So the 4-point insurance inspection covers the 4 major groups of the house. You've got the roof, the electrical, the HVAC, and the plumbing. Now, when I first started, a 4-point wasn't really required on a home unless it was 30 years or older. Some insurance companies, I've done a few recently on 10-year-old homes. So that's kind of changed. And it's very specific information. Like with the plumbing, it's, you know, what kind of plumbing is there, when was it put in, is it original, is it repiped, and what's the condition. Same thing with the roof. Same thing with the electrical. They want to know what brand panels are there. They want to know if it's copper or aluminum wiring. They want to know if there's anything dangerous there. And again, the age. Same thing with the AC. How old is it? How's it working? So it's very, very different from a home inspection report where, for example, with the HVAC, I'm going to get very specific. I'm running how many amps the condenser is pulling, how many amps is the heat strips pulling, what temperatures are coming out. With a 4-point, it's how old it is, how it looks, and is it working?
Right.
That's kind of it.
So to follow up on that, So that's the thing that says, okay, is this house livable, basically?
By the insurance.
Right?
Is it
Insurance.
insurable?
I would
Is it
think,
insurable?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
insurable because I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
insurance doesn't really, they care about those 4 points because those are going to be the most amount of claims. What the insurance company really cares about is that, is this house going to make a claim within the first 6 months of owning it? And that's what the 4 point is. It's an insurance policy pretty much for them to make sure that it is. Which I create a cheat sheet for all my realtors, which I actually bring to them, and I actually have all the electrical deficiencies I would put on the report, all the plumbing deficiencies, all the HVAC deficiencies, and all the roof deficiencies. It's when you kind of like go show the house, listing the houses and stuff like that, you can walk through and then it has a little bit of a cheat sheet because, I mean, their requirements are changing all the time now too, and they are getting stricter and stricter, and I feel more things are having to be put on the 4 point than how it was before, just because it's just becoming more and more tight with the insurance claims and all the public adjusting that was going on with the situation.
So the 4 point comes to the insurance company. Talk about the wind mitigation report.
Grab
Yeah.
that.
So those are really important right now. And I sometimes I have realtors say, oh, well, we're going to get a new roof, so we don't need a wind mitigation. Or the roof is brand new, we don't need a wind mitigation. Or I want to save my buyer money. You know, there's so many inspections, don't want to have to buy another inspection, so we're not going to get a wind mitigation. And I'm honestly finding right now it is probably the most important, because understanding that the wind mitigation is not just about the roof surface. As insurance agents, we have to go in and put what the roof construction is. And it can change it from, if it's toenails versus clips versus single wraps, is there a secondary water resistance there? It can swing the amount of the insurance premium so much. And when we're talking about a buyer who's trying to get, you know, a good premium, when we're dealing with our lender friends we need to make sure we're keeping that insurance good, so it's not, you know, keeping the insurance in line with what they need the monthly payments to be. But I did one, for example, the other day. It is a beachside home, but they didn't really want to do the wind mitigation because they're going to get a new roof. But they also had to get it because to put it through Citizens, I can't even move it forward in some cases without being able to put that. I have to upload that report. I can't even submit it without it. So one, you really need it in so many situations. But two, there was a $1,000 difference in the premium between me putting in the wind mitigation from that and not knowing what the wind mitigation measures in that house were. So I would say it just needs to really become standard right now that you have that ready if you're buying a home to give to your insurance agent, because it's just going to make things much more precise and clear to your agent.
Yeah, and on that, so if anybody hasn't heard about the My Safe Florida Home program,
Yes.
that's something that I've been participating in, going out and doing the wind mitigations for them. The state thinks the wind mits are so important that they're going out and they're offering Florida residents can get a free wind mitigation as long as they have homestead on the house and the house is less than $500,000. And then they have grant money if you live in a windborne debris zone, where they will match. You spend $5,000 on these wind mitigation upgrades, they're going to give you $10,000, you know, if you qualify. And there's certain rules to it, you know, like I said, the house has to be worth less than $500,000, has to be in the windborne debris zone. But anybody in Florida can get a free wind mitigation. And, you know, when I go out for a client that's buying a home and I do a wind mitigation, all they get is that 1802 form. You know, it's just the 7 things on the wind mit. If they do it through the My Safe Florida Home, they get that 1802 form, but they also get an addendum, a supplemental report that lays out exactly what these 7 things are, what they mean, what they can do to upgrade, and how much of a percentage savings they should see on their insurance if they do this. If they have toenails and they go to clips, this is the percent you could save. If you get a new roof, because your roof is prior to 02, so it's prior to Florida Building Code, this is the percentage you can get. It's not aggregate, you know. It kind of, if you do multiple things, it doesn't follow that table exactly, but you know, it's a good program, and it shows how important the wind mitigation really is.
So to learn more about that, you just go
MySafeFloridaHome.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
MySafeFloridaHome.com.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. That may be something we want to put on the video so that everybody will know
Yeah.
that, because That's cool. I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
anything about that.
it's a great program for, you know,
So we've talked about 4 points and wind mitigation. Now let's talk for a minute about what you should not send to your insurance agent.
There's one more
Um,
form too.
What's that? Go ahead.
Oh, there is one more inspection form that's been
Okay.
going around a lot, and that's the roof certification condition
Citizen.
report.
Okay.
So, and that has been going out a lot. So any roofs that are been older, about 12 years or older, they're requiring roof certification reports on it, and it's the roof certification citizens form, and it has to show the condition of the roof, and it has to be performed. Right now it's allowed by Florida licensed home inspectors, and I perform a lot of those actual inspections a lot right now, and that's been going on continuously. So those are going to be the 3 forms that I feel are the most used in the insurance industry.
And they go to your insurance agent so that your insurance agent can write the insurance policy. They can enter all of those factors in and determine what your rate is going to be, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
True.
Okay. So what should you not?
And eligible.
Yeah.
Right, so
We
like
should
if you,
have
so the panels, he mentioned the panels in the house right now. So if on a 4-point, that might be the first time your agent learns that you have a panel that's like a federated panel.
Federal Pacific
Or Federal
or
Pacific panel,
Sylvania
which
or
you
Zinscale.
now just
Yeah.
became ineligible with most private insurance, or if it's got polybutylene pipes,
Yep,
you just
galvanized.
became ineligible. So, you know, we can run quotes all day, but until we get that and we know those specifics, that again,
And those are
now we know.
negotiation points for realtors. I mean,
Right.
if you say, well, we can't even get insurance on this
Absolutely.
building,
Yeah.
so we're going to need a new panel in there before we can close on this home.
Right,
That gives us some leverage.
right.
Absolutely,
And one-
especially
one-
since it's a safety hazard, and that's how you could kind of present it.
Right.
And,
Right.
and to jump on the roof certification, citizen roof certification, one of the issues, it's kind of seems silly to me. The roof cert is the exact same information as the roof portion of the 4-point. But I've had some insurance companies say they
You
want
have to have both. I
Right.
do that
It
all the
doesn't make a whole
time.
lot of sense, but you know.
It is
Right.
what it
They
is.
wanted their own document for it for their underwriters, because I'm sure they're going to have 2 different people reviewing it. One person going to review the 4-point, and then they'll have a specialized person that's going to review the roof condition. And I see that a lot because I work a lot with public adjusters, and I mean we do a lot of reporting for public adjusters, and I see a lot what they have to deal with the underwriters, and it's amazing how many hands get mixed in the pot in there.
And they're all different. The carriers, they are all different.
Right.
So our job with these inspections is kind of to do as much pre-underwriting as possible to make sure it's going to fit. But ultimately, the carriers make that decision, and they're all different.
Yeah.
There's no standard, and that's been an issue, and that's actually what we've been fighting for, is having a standard that all insurance companies have to obey by. But it's like one insurance company will accept polybutylene plumbing, while another one won't accept multi-strain aluminum wiring. But one of them accepts multi-strain aluminum wiring, while the other one doesn't accept polybutylene plumbing. So then it's just like you're in a catch-22, and sometimes hard to find that insurance company that accepts all the issues that are in your house.
Which
And then-
is an advantage for firms like yours who have multiple carriers, right? You can shop different carriers to find the best policy for whatever the particular situation is. So let's go back to what you don't want to see. And you know, it doesn't hurt to say this. Everybody say the same thing. I would never give an insurance company or the mortgage person the full inspection report. First of all, it's long, and second of all, it can be alarming, even though really it shouldn't be alarming. But but just the number of pages scares people. But you guys talk about that for a minute.
So it's a huge difference. You know, the home inspection report has a lot more detail, and they're totally different reports. And I'm going to give a little example I had a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to try not to get upset because this is the first time I've done a home inspection where I got angry. Person has lived in the home for a year. They bought the home a year ago. They thought they got a home inspection, but their agent convinced them that all they needed was a 4-point, a wind mitt, and a roof cert, and that's what they got. Well, the company that came out to do the 4-point wind mitt roof cert did the inspection, gave it to the client. Agent said, well, you can't get insurance with that. So I'm going to call my inspector, and he's going to come out and do another 4-point for you. And he did, and it was bold-faced lies. And they did that just so they could get insurance. And this house was a 100-year-old house on a crawl space that had extensive termite damage in the crawl space. I mean, there was floor joists that just weren't there anymore. And the floor is all bowing inside. And you don't get that on a 4-point. You know, that's not, structural is not part of the 4-point.
It's not.
But, you know, I was hired by their lawyer because they're suing everybody. And that's what they needed to do. But it really just kind of upset me that, you know, you have an agent that's supposed to be protecting your interests and telling you all you need is these insurance inspections. You don't need a home inspection. Like you said, you never send a home inspection to the insurance company because there's too much there. But if you're buying a home, you need a home inspection, not a 4-point and a window.
Yep.
You need both.
A 4-point's meant only for insurance purposes.
Right.
It's
It's
for
the
the
hazards.
insurer to insure you.
Right.
The information is not really meant for the client. Like, it's distributed for the insurance. Why we fill it out on a state insurance form. So a 4-point is going to be for binding insurance. Home inspection is meant for the client to understand their house. It's like a blueprint. So it's not just for us to find deficiencies in the house. It's also going to help them understand where the main water shutoff valves are, the ages of the hot water heaters, age of the HVAC systems. We have like age of the roof, remaining life. So it really does, like, it's like more of an instruction manual.
Well, and I tell my buyers that it's like a budgeting plan.
It is.
Like you look at it and you go, okay, I've got 5 years left on the roof. That means I need to set aside this much money because at the end of 5 years, I'm gonna have to put a new roof on this. Or the air conditioning is, 7 years old, so I may not have much more time. I need to budget for that. So I always try to caution them that they need that for budgeting purposes, if nothing else, just to be aware of what they're looking at. But I will tell you that one of the biggest problems I think in our entire industry, and you probably can all speak to this, is people not staying in their lanes.
Yes.
So realtors
That is
giving
very
legal
true.
advice, realtors giving home inspection advice, realtors giving insurance advice, realtors giving mortgage, that shouldn't be happening. Neither should any of you be giving advice on what the other people are. The reason why we are a profession is because we have our lanes to stay in. So have you had conflicts with that before?
I mean, yes, I've had multiple times. I mean, you be in the business for long enough, it happens. I mean, I've had insurance companies kind of explain to clients certain things, which unfortunately they explained it to them in an improper way, and like, I wasn't able to accept the repairs the way they explained stuff, and that kind of brought stuff back to square one. I've had different aspects in that kind of adding, but I mean, we all try to work together, and it's just trying to more or less communicate with each other and build that relationship, so then you are not overstepping the lanes. It's just easier just to be like, hey, my insurance agent who I usually deal with, I can just call them up real quick. I get the answer for you. Then I know that this is the correct answer for this person. So,
I think the biggest one I get is on escrow. They are not always understanding, like, should they escrow their insurance? So we've got that invoice coming out. Should they pay it in full? Should it go to escrow? So a lot of times they're asking me, well, what do you recommend? And I always, so that's probably the one I get where, I stay in my lane, and I tell them, to call their mortgage professional, and they really need to discuss their escrow options with their mortgage professional and tell me where to send the bill.
Right.
One of the ones that I have, like he brought up multi-strand aluminum, and different insurance companies having problems with different products that other insurance companies don't. There's a couple of products, multi-strand aluminum's one of them, and large gauge solid aluminum on 240 volt circuits, like for your range, your dryer, stuff like that, are still acceptable. They're in the NEC and they're still being used today. I do brand new construction and find solid gauge aluminum feeding the range, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But they'll get pushback from the insurance company when they send them my 4-point, and I said, this is what it is and it shouldn't be an issue. And then all of a sudden they can't get insurance because maybe the insurance company just saw aluminum and then their hair caught on fire. And they wouldn't let it go through.
there is no standards, and that's the hard part. What I was trying to talk about before. It's
Yeah.
You know.
It's hard to find that special one insurance company, but the great thing is I think there's 80 something insurance companies in Florida.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I mean, so you have 80 different options. They're all not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just unfortunate that there isn't a standard that we can all just obey by, and this is what it is.
But just to reiterate, because we had this discussion before we started the video, you should not give
The home inspection report.
The whole home inspection report
don't.
to insurance.
Correct.
Don't
Or
send it to
mortgage.
your insurance
or
agent.
lender.
Nope.
Yeah. Don't.
It's meant for the
It-
client and
only.
realtor only.
Yeah.
It's
So,
it's,
and
it's,
then it's meant for the client to tell us to distribute it to the realtor because they own the property.
yeah. For the home inspection report is to educate the person buying the home and help them make the right choices and decisions. You know, is all this stuff going to be in their budget? You know, people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they ask you all the time too, and it's just not a fair question, but would you buy this house? Is this house a good deal? It's not fair. And, you know, I always tell them it's basic math. You know, you've got the price of the home, you've got the price of the repairs, you've got what you're willing to spend and what you can afford to spend. You know, if you can make all these numbers add up, and then that's the right choice for you, you know. But without a home inspection, you're not going to know what your budget needs to be. If you need a new AC in 10 years, you need a new roof in 5 years, you're going to need to repipe this house. You know, all those things you need to know to make that decision and make a smart decision. And that's what the home inspection report does, not the 4-point.
One of our lenders just walked in, and I know from having a conversation with her, she just had a deal kind of blow up on her this week because the home needs a new roof and can't get insured. And they said that they could write a policy and bind it for, 25 or 30 days, but after that, the new roof had to be installed, but
Right.
she can't find a roofer that can do it in
Nope.
that length of time. So what are we seeing with roofers and that kind of situation?
Yeah. I've done a couple of those this week. I haven't seen 30 days. That's really fast turnaround. Citizens gives you 60. I have one that gives you 45 to 60. So just being able to go in and say, hey, here's our signed contract, here's our deposit if there's one, here's the estimated time that it's going to be completed. That's tough. I haven't, that 30 days is tough, but again, just being able to, if I was in that situation, I would probably help them find some roofers, get out there and, you know, not maybe just one or two estimates, you know, I'd get 4 or 5 to see who has a timeline that they could get it done that quickly.
I mean, we just had Ian and Nicole, and you don't have to drive that many blocks to see a bunch of blue tarps out there. The roofers are slammed.
But it's
And-
not just about the roofers, it's the permits.
It's the permitting
Yes.
is where the issue is.
Yeah.
Right now it's like the permitting's been backed up, and I'm dealing with a project right now with a foundation issue and 90 days for a permit. So, and we're fighting it because the foundation has to be repaired within very shortly time, a tree uplifted, and it's going to cause a lot more damage if it doesn't get taken care of. So they might end up doing the work without the permit as it's being processed, and then just call the city up as they're doing the
Beg
process
for
for the
forgiveness.
permit thing. But I mean, those are things that are going on. With roofers, he's absolutely right. Roofers are absolutely slammed. It's kind of hard. You kind of have to build relationships up with that and kind of see what's going on. But a lot of times I've dealt with insurance companies that if you show a receipt, you show that you're under contract, you show that there's been a deposit down, either like half down or something that's been a lot invested, that they will have accepted it before. So they've done small
You
things
guys,
like that.
Insurance folks seen that?
So that will help in most cases for renewals, but not so much on new business because of those dates. Like Liz was saying, you know, our carriers might give a 30, 45, maybe 60-day window on new business to have it done. But what we're running into right now is the timeline takes well past that.
And what is the guesstimated minimum and maximum range for getting a new roof put on right now?
So
Like how much life is left?
No,
I
like
mean,
the time frame for
This
the
much
roofer.
for finding a roofer, this long for getting a
I
permit
gotcha.
done, this
Yeah.
long for actually installing the roof, and this much
So I think
for-
your county plays a factor in that, in the timing of of pulling the permits, but I'm kind of seeing the 3 to 4 month range.
That's
here in
about right. I
Volusia.
was about to
Yeah.
say exactly around that.
I'm seeing a little quicker. I'm seeing about a month with because like I said, I have 2 going on right now, and the roofers are going to start the work within 3 to 4 weeks of the close of the when the transaction closes. Yes.
That's just what they're telling you so they get the insurance policy roof.
Well, I mean.
Does that type of policy have to be paid in full or no?
I mean, that depends on what the carrier offers. If they offer payment plans, that really hasn't been, it didn't really affect anything that I was working on. I did get a question. One of them is a Citizens deal. And they did ask me, okay, so if we go in and do this, are they going to charge me more because I have to have this roof repaired? And I did confirm with Citizens that an intent to repair does not affect the premium. However, I still had to that was the one where I still had to upload a wind mitigation, and it made a $1,000 difference. And now they're going to have another wind mitigation once they have the new roof put on. But
Yeah, but that $1,000 pays for a couple of windmills.
that's right. That's right.
For more than
The
a couple
windmill is-
windmills.
The windmill is probably the cheapest inspection I do. It's
Right.
the lowest cost inspection that I do.
And
It
it's
makes
the
such a
most
difference,
beneficial
right,
to
makes
the
on
client.
insurance.
So
You're always
even-
going to get your money back.
Yeah, and
But
even,
that's where the
even
credits
that next
lie.
inspection they're going to do for the
It's
windmill,
kinda
they're
like
going to get money back.
Yeah.
Getting the value of it is so great compared to the risk.
What, $500 a year?
Just like
Something like that?
windmill is so valuable compared to risk. If
Absolutely.
you have the wrong risk, lots of insurance.
Yeah.
But
So let's talk for a second about, we've got, I know y'all have noticed, we have quite a boom in new construction.
Yes, we do.
So, my personal advice is always get the inspections on new construction. I've seen things like there's no insulation blown in.
Yep.
There's no, we had what was it? A main shutoff valve had no something on it that would allow it to actually turn. You couldn't
Yeah.
actually shut the
Yeah.
water off if something happened. No pan under a hot water heater. No, all of those kinds of things. So
The housing is just, it's becoming so quick. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm in neighborhoods and they're having these houses and they're getting built within 3 months. And I'm watching them run through electric and just different things. I do a lot of different phase inspections. So I do pre-slab, pre-drywall, I do the walkthrough inspection, then I also offer 11-month warranty inspection. A lot of people don't realize that you get 1 year warranty with your brand new construction. So at 11 months, they hire me back out to do an inspection. I come and do an entire inspection on their house, whatever I find wrong, no matter what it is, the builder's supposed to completely take care of it through the warranty company. And so they get a brand new house again. But during my pre-drywall inspections, I've been finding a lot of different things. A lot of issues with rafters, a lot of issues with load bearings. I've seen stuff where they installed windows incorrectly and then they broke into the caster and they do not have engineering reports. So, and anytime you mess with any lintel or caster, has to have an engineer approval. And just a lot of different things. Heights of sinks and requirements are not per code anymore. And I've seen just a lot of different, just small mistakes, but it's unfortunate when you have a superintendent that deals with 60 homes.
all at one time.
It's hard for quality control, and then the subs, they don't want to, they're getting paid by the job. So they don't get paid until the job is finished. So they don't want to show a mistake or anything, so they try to sometimes, unfortunately, cover things up, and during my inspections sheds a little bit of light into it.
So talk about the difference in insurance costs. And the other question I have about new construction is I've been told by some insurance folks, we don't need a 4-point or wind mitt on a new construction home. What's your thinking there?
Well, for insurance purposes, that's true.
Right.
Because insurance is assuming that everything is built to code, and that is what they're worried about. So new construction, a 4-point and a wind mitt are not needed.
So I have a question on that. One of the things on the wind mitt, and I always tell my clients you don't need a wind mitt on new construction because you get credit for everything. But what about like the roof shape, the hip? You know, you're not going to get HIP credit without a wind mitt. Just because the house is new doesn't mean it.
They
They should be
verify
able to go by
that. So
plans.
when we put that in, like when I choose the roof shape, we just kind of put that in,
So you can
and
do
then
it off
they
plans,
can verify that with a
Gotcha.
just with a bird's eye view.
But
of
you
that
do want
too.
a wind mitigation though for new construction if they have hurricane rated windows
Right.
or shutters,
Right.
because they're not going to get the credits for the discounts for hurricane rated shutters or the window impact ratings. And so, I mean, I do a lot of new construction, wind mitigations. 4 points, no. I do not do any of them, but wind mitigations, I do a decent amount if they do have the hurricane shutters, because you
Yeah.
do want to get that extra $300 to $700 off a year, and I mean, some insurance companies will give you up to $500 to $700 off for shutters.
But they have to be the kind that you don't put up.
Yes.
Yeah. And it has
If
to
you
be
have hurricane
every-
shutters, you have to put up. They don't give you a credit for that.
And it has to be every opening in the house.
Every
including the
glass
front door,
opening.
garage door, every
Skylight.
opening.
Skylights, yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Wow, I never even
Any
thought
any
about skylights.
yeah,
Yeah.
any
Makes
glass
sense.
and any piece of door, even if it's just like a half moon glass, small piece, anything.
Glazed
Yep.
or non-glazed openings.
Yep.
But one of the things, talking about new home construction, one of the services that I offer is a sewer scope, where I take a camera and I stick it down in your waste pipe. You know, and when you have old cast iron plumbing, it's kind of a no-brainer. Get it. But what people don't understand is on new construction, I find a lot of stuff on new construction, whether it's somebody dumping thin set and mortar down the pipe,
Grout.
or broken pipes, because that's one of the first things that goes in is the plumbing, and you've got construction vehicles driving over it and all that kind of stuff. So, it has value even in new construction.
But not necessary for insurance.
Not necessarily
Yeah.
for insurance, but we were talking about new homes. Yeah.
But it also does, I mean, it takes just a little while for you to figure out that something's going wrong with the waste pipe.
Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily happen the first 3 months you're in.
we had a bathroom remodeled, and then maybe a week after the remodel was done, our downstairs flooded.
But the house had not been occupied for a
Right.
period of time.
Yeah.
And so things had,
Yeah,
It-
solidified.
It all depends on the severity of the problem. If you've got a busted pipe and it's just not connected and all your waste is just going into the dirt, that's going to back up pretty quick.
Yeah.
If you've got, one of the things we look for is what we call a belly. It's like a low spot in the pipe and water kind of just sits there in the pipe. That's going to take some time. Eventually it will cause a clog because there's a lip, so stuff starts piling up and gets caught. So, some stuff is going to be, you're going to find it fast. And some stuff, it's going to be months or years.
So we have, we recently, our immediate community and then the ones to our south have been going through a lot of work to switch from septic to sewers,
Cities, yeah.
right? City sewers. And there's been lots of state programs to help people do that and all of that kind of thing. Talk about that in terms of both inspections, but also insurance. Like, is there an impact on insurance for being on city sewer versus septic?
I've never seen that on like when I go in to do a full app. I don't think I've personally seen that on a full app. Have you seen
No, I mean, it's
that
never been
question?
an issue that I've come across
Yeah.
that's been a deal breaker, but there are questions that are asked on if it is the septic system or the sewer, city sewer, and
Yeah.
honestly, it's not
Yeah,
ever been
I
an issue.
insure septic, right?
You don't insure the septic
Yeah, I mean, it's-
tank, but
I don't.
You care about whether the septic backs up into the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Which there
yeah.
is, right.
But I
Right.
don't know if it's part of the property also. It's something
Right.
you'd have to be part of the
Yeah,
policy. Each policy can be different on it, so it can be written up. So depending on if they do have property damage, then if it is causing issues, like if the septic tank collapsed and caused like soil erosion, then it very well could be. But
oh, that'd be a mess.
That doesn't happen often.
I've seen it before.
But on the inspection side of it, one of the main differences, if a house has septic, I get asked all the time, well, do you inspect the septic? No.
No. we
I
do
don't
not.
have a poop truck.
And we're
in
not
order-
licensed to do it.
And I'm not licensed to do it, but in order to actually do a septic inspection, you have to pump the tank and inspect the tank. So it's an additional cost. If you're buying a home with septic over city sewer, that's another $500, $600 inspection.
And
you
mortgage
have to have
lenders
done.
usually require to have a septic inspection.
Yeah.
They want to have that engineering report, it's a 5-year stamp on it.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I've seen that. That's one of the things that like I get to, and I tell the people all the time, yes, we don't do it. Please, here's the name of the septic company that we refer to. Please get it done. And then they call me back up. Oh, well, my mortgage company is wanting to have information about the septic. Here's that company again. You guys call them up and see what
I've got a
you
comment
can
in my
do.
report that says, hey, you've got septic, get a septic inspection. You know.
So let's talk about a different thing. Lots of pools in our area.
Yes.
So we'll talk about inspections on pools, but I want to talk about insurance costs as related to pools. And what are the safety measures that are required by insurance in order to get some kind of credit for that?
Well, so one thing I think that people are surprised the most when I tell them is that your pool is not covered by flood insurance. And so people are like, what? Like they don't know that their pool is not covered by flood insurance. So that's one big thing.
Tell me what that means or why that matters.
Because people think their pool is covered. If they have this flood policy, they think it's covering their pool and their pool heater and things like that, and it's not.
So the pool
Unless you have-
damaged by it, but the pool itself is not necessarily damaged by.
What happens if the
Can
pool
be.
overflowed and the water from the pool went into the house? Is that covered by flood?
Right, so that would be different than natural rising water. So again, it's that always that chicken and the egg. Like where did the water start? Like did the wind open up a hole in my wall and the water blew in, or did it rise naturally, or did it, so that's it. All kind of depends on where that water
Evaluation.
comes from.
If we flood, we need a hole in the wall. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you want the roof to blow. You want the roof to blow off and the water to come in. Yes.
What is it look like a doorknob?
Your up to code perfect roof needs to blow off, and then But as far as like what they ask, if you have a diving board, things like is there a diving board?
Slide.
Is there and then do you have a fence, or do you have some sort of barrier, fence, or cage? And if that's code, here in Volusia, you have to have a fence or a cage. You can't even move on in your pool construction. But some of the older homes, they'll have like an older like chain link fence, but as long as you have I think it's a 4-foot barrier or your cage. That's kind of, and diving boards, that's what they ask about.
Pool alarms, though. I've actually done a mini inspection where an insurance company required pool alarms on all the glass openings, and also they wanted pictures of the railings to make sure that the railings weren't rusted. So those were two things this insurance company required that I had
Was it State
additionally.
Farm though?
No, it was additional information that they wanted me to actually put together for them.
Yeah, because what that's one of the things that's always been kind of odd to me is pool is not part of the 4-point, and it's not part of any of the information that we typically give the insurance company. There was State Farm had their own separate form that they wanted a picture of the pool.
Yes,
but they still didn't want it. They still didn't ask any information. And we talk about standardizing and stuff. Up until recently, a lot of us, if you look at the Citizens 4-point form, it says right at the top that this is a sample form, and that whatever report your inspector does that has this stuff in it is fine. But a lot of insurance companies have decided that the Citizens 4-point form is an actual
it's the
state
only form they will accept.
It's the only form they'll accept. I actually used to put a little bit more information in my 4 points because I had that freedom, with my template, my software, I could put a little bit extra information in there that they kind of needed to know. There's some stuff you just can't add to the Citizens 4-point form, that really should be in there. But, like you said, there's no real standard, but we have this sample form that all the insurance companies, no offense, are taking as, this is this official state form. And it's not.
It's also nice in case Citizens becomes your last choice. When you already have it on the right form, that's really helpful too. That you don't have to, if you've got a non-Citizens inspection, now you have to go to Citizens and you have to get it on another form. So,
But every other 4-point that wasn't on the Citizens form had all that information.
Right.
So that's what always kind of confused a lot of folks.
But going back to the photos on the pools, from my experience, anytime that the home has a pool, they want a photo of the pool and its protection for liability purposes
Yeah, 'cause-
in that 4-point.
I mean, when I do a home inspection and there's a pool, I mean, I'm looking at the pool shell condition, the pump, the heater, you know, the barriers, the screen cage, are all the doors self-closing, self-latching? Do you have window and door alarms? You know, I look at all of that stuff on a home inspection, but there's nothing on there that I send to an insurance company.
So,
just
do
the
all
photos.
home inspectors do pool inspections, or is that
No,
something?
it's something that all home inspectors can do pool inspections, but you're
Not
not going
all,
to get
sure.
you're not going to be getting the same inspection if you're not properly educated. For the Florida state license, the pool is pretty much non-existent part of it. Very minimal aspects. They talk about code with pool alarms and 4-foot barrier cage, but they don't go into depth of understanding like the plumbing and understanding how like different things are routed and how the flow is supposed to go and when the etching to the surface is and algae growth and stuff like that.
Fluorescence and
So I mean,
what's got to be GFCI protected?
yeah,
It's gotta be-
we do pool inspections. We don't do leak detections with my company, but I do work with a company that does a full leak detection. And I mean, it's very advisable for anyone to get an advanced pool inspection anyways, just to kind of understand it. But the liabilities for insurances is all they care about is someone going to get shocked? So they want to make sure if they have a screen enclosure that the grounding wire is connected correctly to it. Is a little kid going to be able to fall in if they open up a sliding glass door and run outside? That's why pool alarms, or you have to have a 4-foot barrier cage around the outside of it. And they really care about like how are they going to get sued.
Yeah. So talk about, just for a minute, rates and how rates are affected by having a pool.
So it depends on the carrier and how they put the pool into either coverage A, the dwelling, or other structures, which then falls into where the pool is located and how it's connected to the house. So if there is a separation, with grass from your pool and your concrete patio, it could most likely fall into other structures. But if it is connected to the house, with the concrete patio or pavers, then it could fall under the coverage A dwelling, which is where the primary part of your premium lies.
So is the rate higher if it's attached to the house and
Yes.
lower if it's not?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it drives all the other percentages because everything is driven off that percentage A, or a percentage of that coverage A line item. So when you're putting that pool into your replacement cost estimate, it's making it higher, obviously. But and not just pools. I'm working with another client. Their garage is completely detached from the house, and it's a big garage. And they got a quote from somewhere else, and they only had $8,500 in other structures, where this is probably, they need like $85,000. So being really careful about what is detached and not detached, and like she was saying about the pools, like we're taught if you have to walk in dirt to get to the pool, it's detached. If the decking is up to your foundation, that's attached. But if there's any question, you want to really make sure that your insurance agent that you're working with verifies how that insurance company is going to look at that pool.
I have a question, if you don't mind. So if you do that and it's a second dwelling, now if someone ended up putting pavers all the way across and connected it from the pool to the house with pavers, does that consider
That's how
the
my
same
house is.
structure of it?
It's attached.
Yep. So I have a house.
Interesting.
I have a house and a building, and then the pavers connect, and the cage connects the two, and my insurance company calls it a single structure.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, I just got educated.
Because I thought the same thing. You would think it's detached. Yeah, absolutely. But because the decking connects the two foundations, they consider it all one structure.
How much grass do you need to have?
Yeah, you got like a footage that you can tell me?
I don't. I think at that point, you would want to check with the insurer.
Just lay some AstroTurf across the
I'm
pavers.
putting a stripe of grass between the legs.
Yeah.
Well, even like I've seen sidewalks that go from the foundation to the pool deck, and so I've double checked it. I'm like, okay, they've got this little strip. How do you want to line item this? So it's just checking when you have something questionable like that, that could be a gray area. Just make sure that the insurance agent you're working with.
That's good to know, because
Yeah.
my wife, I have a
Verify.
detached garage. My wife wanted to put a sidewalk to it. I ain't doing it now.
No, you kind of would want to though, because then
So-
it would create a one dwelling. With you paying a double dwelling, it's more expensive, right?
Please talk to your insurance agent.
Yes, make sure they
One
understand
way or
it.
the other.
Right?
So that leads me to the second part of that question was about detached garages. I noticed during the pandemic, seems like those metal buildings were going up all over the place. Putting, right? Am I
Hobby
right?
shops.
I mean, yeah, they were all putting in these huge metal buildings, especially down where I live. And some of them are connected by concrete. They poured concrete all the way out and put that building on there, and so they would be part of the same dwelling.
Yeah.
So
And then-
the building though matters.
Right.
If it's on a slab that's permanently affixed, potentially.
Okay.
But it just kind of depends on how it's built and the structure of it.
Right.
Okay.
If it has a breezeway, like a walk, like say a roof connection, and just a breezeway, say like you have a walks and then you just have a breezeway that connects the two, is it still same dwelling, or would it be or would it still be a separate dwelling? Say like in Spruce Creek Flying, they have like the homes and then the hangar home, and a lot of people will connect the breezeways to the hangar.
Those are always
Depends
fun.
on the roof line, so it can be yes or no. If it shares that roof line, it's most likely going to be considered attached. But
What
again,
if it just wall to
always
wall?
it can matter. But the roof line is kind of that first thing you look at, and then that, because they're building some new homes like that as well. They're
In
building
Massey
these,
Ranch.
and there's building some out in DeBerry too, where they have the detached, and some of them are putting that roof line in breezeway to walk out, and some aren't. So again,
At the same time, doesn't that affect wind mitt?
It would affect the wind mitt, so I would only be able to provide one wind mitigation per structure dwelling. So even though if the roof lines are still connected to me, I still would have to do a wind mitigation on the hangar home and then the house itself or detached garage itself.
And does the breezeway affect the wind mitt?
It wouldn't affect too much of the wind mitt. It might make it that if it's a hip roof and has a breezeway that goes in with a peak on it, then I won't be able to give it a hip roof structure if it's less than 10 feet. Or 10%, I mean.
If the roof line is the same on one of the buildings and the breezeway, then the wind mitt is affected by because it's so full.
Yeah, I would still have to do 2 wind mitigations.
This is why we are not insurance agents or home inspectors. You have to know a lot of stuff. So we're almost at the end of our time. I'm going to go down the line again, and then if there's anything that we haven't touched on that you think would be a topic that would be of future value to talk about, or if there's anything you forgot or whatever, I'd love to hear it. So why don't we start with you, Sean?
All right, I mean, the one thing I think is very important is to be more educated about public adjusters. There's been a lot of new laws been going on around that, and then how it can actually affect with insurance companies. A lot of people think it's a good idea to get public adjusters, and a lot of people think it's not a good idea. So depending on the situation, I think it's be good to educate more about what a public adjuster does and what he can do, and also how it can affect the insurance. Also, with you buying insurance in the future, if you do end up using a public adjuster with a claim.
Okay.
I would say from working with realtors, I would say find an agent that maybe they're not even going to be the agent on your deal, but find somebody that you can send 4 points to and have them walk through. I've had 2 agents this week. I'm not the insurance agent on it, but they were just like, hey, can you walk through these 4 points with me, and what can I do to get these unsatisfactories, and kind of coming up with a plan. So if you have a deal and you have a 4 point and it has some unsatisfactories, work with an insurance agent that's a friend or someone you know, and just kind of say, let's come up with a plan. And I see it really valuable because they especially on these older homes, they don't want to lose the deal, and they're being really proactive in trying to save that deal by working with an agent to just, again, get educated, like you're saying, on that specific, the issues in that specific report, so they don't lose the deal.
Yeah. Jim?
Not really new, just I think it's important enough to reiterate, a 4-point inspection is not a home inspection. And a home inspection doesn't go to the insurance company. If you're buying a home, get a home inspection. Don't just get the insurance inspection and think that's going to give you enough information about the house to make that smart choice.
Okay. Stephanie?
We've spent a lot of time talking about homes, but not condos.
Okay.
So I think understanding what condo association covers versus the condo owner.
Yeah.
That's a big one because it can vary. Most people think walls in, and usually they're right, but each condo association can be different.
I think that's an excellent topic. I think the
Yeah.
next time we do an insurance panel with home inspectors, we'll do that because it is funny, the difference between a condo inspection and a home inspection.
Absolutely.
There's a huge
Yeah.
difference. And also condo tells
Yes.
is another area that we see there's quite a lot of differences. So I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we-
Stephanie is right because, and it's not even easy for us as agents to find that information out sometimes.
Right.
Like I just did one, the HOA would not tell me if the roof was covered. I asked them to send me the policy. They sent me a liability policy for the pool house. And the owners thought the roof was covered. At the end of the day, finally, after all this research, found out the roof was not covered. But it took a lot of work to find that out. So she is absolutely right. Like that is that's a whole different.
Yeah, 'cause-
And then when you get into townhouses versus condos,
And understanding
Yeah.
the difference of what you're right, association
right?
covers and doesn't cover. I mean, you are right, it does cover the 4 walls, but I've had a plumbing leak inside of a wall, which
Right.
plumbing is considered association, which we had to end up proving. It just took a lot of investigation, but I mean, the association finally was able to take care of their issues.
Yeah.
And the HO3 versus the HO6, that
Oh,
can be very confusing for people.
And we do 4 points on condos, and we've had some requests for wind mitigations. The rules are pretty specific where we can do wind mitigations and where we can't. If it's over 4 stories and all that kind of stuff.
Well, if it's on an individual unit, you're allowed
Yeah.
to. You're just not allowed to do the whole building.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
if you still do a wind mitigation on a condo is like 21 floors, just you're not allowed to do the building wind mitigation. It's so retarded how everything is considered on it.
So we have a couple of audience members, and actually Terry was supposed to be with us this morning. She was called out and wasn't able to be here. But do you guys have anything you want to touch on before we close it out?
I'll let her go. Go ahead.
No, I thought it was good. I wanted to ask about the roofs, and I think they did a good job covering that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
my biggest concern.
Terry, anything you see that's needs?
Absolutely. You guys have brought up some really great points. Insurances can be such a difficult thing, especially nowadays. 4 points and wind mids, absolutely a must, especially if the roofs are older house with a newer roof. Condos, walls in, floor up. And when anybody's looking for a way out of paying a claim, and it's so sad that we have to fight so hard to get it done. But condos, houses, everything. Great example for a full inspection. Just don't rely on a 4 point, but that doesn't tell you all the little dirty secrets, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you want to make sure you know everything about the house prior to buying it. Newer home, cheaper rates. Older home, we can do. It's great that you guys put this together so people can get this information.
Awesome. So next up, we'll have you guys back, and we'll talk about condos specifically.
That's a good idea.
And maybe there's at some point we will bring our lenders in too to talk about any nuances with insurance and inspections and that kind of stuff that affects their ability to lend on a property as well.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming.
Oh,
We really
thank you.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
Thank you.